What's the creepiest or most unexplainable thing you've ever seen that you haven't shared anywhere? Serious. Back in 2016 my mother was staying at my place because my father was in the hospital at the time and my apartment was right next to the hospital. One night I had this dream that the landline rings and my mother answers the phone and hears the news that my dad has passed away. She hangs up the phone and tells me that my uncle, a doctor at the hospital my father was in, just gave her the news of my father's passing. I wake up startled. I have a drink of water, and just as I start feeling relieved that this was all just a bad dream, the phone rings and my mom picks it up. I was just watching her from a distance, noticing the expression on her face, noticing the tears that started dripping down her cheek, and she hangs up the phone and tells me that my uncle just told her that my father has passed away. This is the only unexplained thing that ever happened to me and this is the first time I share this with anybody. Rescued a blue tick coonhound that had bad anxiety when we left so he had to be crated. Went to the grocery store with wife and 2 young kids and left the dog in the crate. When we got back, the dog was out of the crate, but the crate was completely closed and latched. There was no apparent way it could have happened. We problem solved it for the entire day and couldn't figure out how he did it. Called him Blue Dinny after that. His unmatched escape skills continued though. He could open doors. No fence could hold him in. The dog simply climbed fences. We ended up rehoming him for his own safety. He actually wound up as a farm dog, which I'm sure was his best home. I got recalled into work and was driving at about 3 AM. I was in a very rural area in western Washington. As I come around a curve I see a woman in a nightgown on the side of the road looking up at a steep embankment. Just standing there staring away from the road. There are no homes nearby, not for miles. I call 911 and pull over about a minute up the road not knowing what to think. Deputy showed up, couldn't locate anyone and was as dumbfounded as I was. Happened to me before on a dark back road to my house. There is no street lights. The road is very curvy, and it was about 2 AM. She was standing on a bend in the road on the edge while the cliff behind her was about 100-200 feet drop. There are no homes for about 2 miles up the hill. I was driving very slow to make the turn so I got a good look with my headlights. I make it around the corner and look back. Nothing. Creepiest thing ever. White older lady in a white nightgown just staring. My father died when I was 15. In my freshman year of college. Me and my roommate in the dorms were somewhat close, but really had only been known each other for a month when the creepy thing happened. I hadn't told her much about my childhood, but she knew that my father had passed. One day she woke me up and asked me, "Did your father used to call you?" Insert silly childhood nickname here. I hadn't heard that name since I was 6 or 7. I definitely never told her that he used to call me that, as it was a repressed memory that I hadn't thought about in a long time. Anyway, as it turned out, she had a dream that my father had come to her and asked her to take care of me, calling me by this silly childhood nickname. It was always difficult for me that my father never saw me graduate high school or start college, but I guess he did, from wherever he is now. I was 10 YO riding my bicycle at dusk along the road I lived on, which was parallel to a set of railroad tracks. I moved off the road as a car sped by and a beer bottle came sailing at me from the front passenger seat. I could see 2 young women turned around laughing at me through the back window. I flipped them off and kept riding. About 30 seconds later, I heard the train slam into them. When I was about 9, in the 1970s, I was playing football in the street. A bus came along so I jumped up on the pavement. As it passed I noticed my aunt and she smiled and waved to me. When the bus had gone I carried on playing. I went home several hours later to find my aunt had died the previous evening. When I was about 11 or 12 I went with my friend and my younger brother to play football in a park that was in a pretty remote place, so there were never many people. Basically 3 or 4 people came dressed in like Victorian style clothes, set up a box underneath a tree with big branches, tied a rope around it. One of them stood there with this noose around his neck and then his friend kicked the box so he was hanging. They took turns doing this, and we left. It was super weird thinking back to it and I have to check with my brother whenever I think about it to make sure it actually happened. Theory: you encountered a group of people from the Victorian era who attained immortality somehow. Once per year they go out to enjoy the summer air and check if they are still immortal. My friend and I were sleeping in my parents' room one night when she was over and it was probably about 3 AM. Suddenly we hear a sound like a fart from the corner of the room, and distinctly from this one corner. So I ask my friend if she farted, and of course she says no, as it clearly came from that corner. Thinking maybe it's my dogs, as they sometimes sleep in my parents' room. I go and check it out but realize they're not in the room with us. Okay, so that's weird, I thought, and my friend also said she heard a distinct fart too, so we assumed that maybe we both misheard. Then all of a sudden an unknown caller starts ringing my phone and I don't answer because at this point I'm freaked the F out. After I decline the call, I receive a message from an unknown caller with the same area code as the caller who had just called me. The text message is all in Spanish and me and my friend decide to paste the text into Google Translate, where it proceeds to say, "Did you hear that fart?" Needless to say, we never slept in my parents' room again, and we're convinced that we have a Spanish farting ghost in our presence. In my mother's house, the basement light would turn on while we were away, and even if it was turned off before we left, it was somehow back on when we got back. Once I went downstairs and was like, "Hey Mr. Ghostman, this is not good for the bills, could you PLS chill it with the lights?" "Yes, I know it's dark down here, okay thanks." Light stayed off. My dorm hall had some weird happen, but one of the weirdest was that I went to the bathroom to wash my face and brush my teeth. The sink was right next to the entrance, and as I washed my face, I saw and heard the door open and noticed a figure move to the end of the stalls. I figured a girl had just come in to use the bathroom. I dry off my face and begin brushing my teeth but realized I didn't hear anyone else. I checked each stall and no one was in there. I quickly grabbed my stuff and noped out. Something similar happened to me at my old university. This dorm was always known as the haunted dorm, but it was quiet for the most part and I really enjoyed living there. Creepy things would occasionally happen there, like sometimes before bed I'd feel like I was being watched, but it was never intensely scary. Then one day I'm in the shower, and it's a community bathroom so anyone can come in at any time, and I hear someone open the bathroom door, set something down, and all the while they're humming some song. It's actually kind of pleasant and I planned on complimenting them when I got out of the shower, but as soon as I get out, the humming stops and there's no one there. I go out in the hall, and there's no one out there either. I go back in the bathroom, and quickly realize there was no one ever in that bathroom with me to begin with. I told someone else about it who lived in the building with me, but she didn't believe me, so I never really spoke about it again. I was working in a retail store in a pretty sketchy area. There was this lady who was obviously a heavy drug user or ex-drug user. She must have been in her 50s or 60s. She was notorious on my block for being a crazy, but she'd visit me all the time and told me she thought I was cute. It was really bizarre cause she looked like a crackhead, but she'd act like a teenage girl around me. I tried to be nice to her cause she was known for being volatile. Anyway, on Christmas Eve she packed an entire Christmas dinner which she told me was all home cooked Guyanese food and a cologne set. As she was leaving she just squats down on the floor and throws her hand up and starts cackling. Yes, cackling, which faded to a giggle. Never saw her again. I was in my final year at uni, and I worked as a TA for a language prof. This meant teaching 1-hour sessions multiple times a week. I basically lived in the known to be haunted humanities building. One Tuesday after my final class and before my first lesson of the evening, I was in the staff room heating up my Thai microwave dinner. A woman I had never seen before came in. Obligatory oplem just scooch past and check the time on the coffee machine. Now I found it odd that this university employee came here just to check the time on the coffee machine. You don't have a phone, computer, watch, clock, but who am I and my lean cuisine to judge? She looks at the time on the coffee machine and says, "That can't be right. What time is it?" Me. "Oh, it's 5:37. Ho, HMM 5 minutes fast." Okay. With that she left, and although a bit odd, I didn't dwell on the interaction. That is, until 1 week later, Tuesday evening, I was again heating up my food when she enters. Obligatory oplem just scooch past and check the time. That can't be right. What time is it? I look at my phone. It is exactly 5:37. I tell her and once again she says 5 minutes fast. Okay, and leaves. I am deeply unsettled. The microwave dings. I take my lean cuisine and quickly head upstairs. Never saw that woman again. I was probably 18 years old and was driving at night to see a friend. This man kind of jumped in front of the car to make me stop. He honestly looked crazy. I slowed down the car to almost stop and he moved to talk to me, I think through the window, but I just drove off once he got out of the way. I was so creeped out. I never told anyone because I felt guilty that I didn't help him. It's been almost 10 years and I still don't have anything that's somewhat close to an explanation what happened then. My bestie and me were sleeping over at her grandma's house and enjoying the newly renovated attic as it was supposed to become her little teenager apartment. All new furniture with a huge comfy couch and nice clean board screwed to the wall, all in white pink. Sleepover went just like you would imagine it, with two 15-year-old girls painting nails, watching DVDs and talking about the hottest gossip at school. It was already like 3 AM when we decided to go get some sleep and left the room to sleep in the bed next door. Only a few minutes later we heard a little scratching sound followed by a loud bang, clearly coming from the room we just left. One of the boards that were screwed to the wall was lying on the floor, almost 4 m away from where it was supposed to be. Not like screw broke and it fell. Nope. Solid 4 m away from that wall. Almost 2 cm deep hole in the ground where the board was laying. The holes in the wall looked like something grabbed that board and pulled it straight out, ripping the wood and concrete it was drilled to. Still getting goosebumps remembering it. I had something similar. My mother and I were in my room because she had to use the computer that I was on when we heard a bang come from the kitchen. I went to look and the clock that's normally on the wall was on the floor, leaning against the leg of a chair, maybe 7 feet from the wall. I figured it must have just fallen off the screw. No, because directly beneath it is a coat rack, followed by a shoe rack. It would have fallen, bounced off the coat rack, and flopped either on or behind the shoe rack. That's not what it did. The path from where it hung to the chair was an arc that completely bypassed the coat rack, not to mention that it had been several months since daylight savings time, so it wasn't touched anytime recently. A few months later, I found the clock on the kitchen table with pieces of glass missing. I asked my parents about it and they said that they came home to it on the floor, broken, but they cleaned it up. The second time may or may not be the same thing, but I can't say for certain because I'm not the one who initially found it. Nonetheless, I couldn't figure a valid way that the thing could have not just fallen, but actually launched itself away from the wall. Here is a creepy weird story. During a road trip from NJ to NC, my friend and I decided we were hungry and went looking for food in a town in Maryland. I don't remember the name of the town, but it felt very strange as soon as we pulled onto the main road, as there didn't seem to be any people out and about. It was the middle of the day, but no one was walking around. There weren't any restaurant food options other than a pizza place, so we pulled up and parked in front of the pizza place. It seemed like everyone in the town must have gone to that pizza place. When we parked the car, everyone in the restaurant turned and looked at our car through the big glass windows, like, at the same time. They stared at us. We stared at them. It felt so weird that I said, "I don't want to go in there." My friend just nodded at me wide-eyed, and we drove to another town for lunch. Why was seemingly the whole town in that pizza place? What was with the staring? I'm almost a little sorry we didn't go in to find out, but at the same time not sorry at all. I was in bed at night, woken up by the sound of steps on my roof tiling. I think I was about 13 at the time. I see a shadow walk past my skylight, and sure of what it was, I look outside my side window and see a man dressed in all black looking out from the construction scaffolding. After a while he looks into my window and I try to hide. My brother also saw him. We never found out what happened to him, but the police were informed. When I was a kid I was playing in our kitchen when I saw a huge dark figure walk past the kitchen and down the hallway leading to the bedrooms. I walked to our back patio and saw the rest of my family watching TV. The patio is on the opposite side of the house from the hallway. I walked to the hallway and started looking for who it could have been, but never found anyone. Still have no idea who or what it could have been, but it's always creeped me out thinking about it. I never make it in time to answer these and have pretty much kept this story to myself. I remember telling one person who told me don't repeat that, don't mess with whatever that was, so I didn't. I guess read at your own risk. When I was 10 I went with my parents to this campground so they could visit their friends. They had a son who I got along with. Same age. Sometimes however if there was other kids around the son would try and pick on me to impress them. Me and the son went fishing, and right as we're about to leave, another kid comes and joins us, and the son immediately starts picking on me. Not wanting to be stuck on a boat and teased, I decided to leave and walk back to the campground by myself. I didn't want to go straight back to my parents because they'd ask why I wasn't with the son, and I didn't want to get into it. So I just walked on this U-shaped road. In the center of the U are campers, and on the other side is woods with a lake around it. At the very center of the U is a park. Perfect. I think I'll just sit on the swings until I think enough time has passed to go back. As I'm on the swings, I notice a path directly across from me. I get up and start walking along this dirt path. There are reeds on either side of me, and I have my hands stretched out as I walk dead center of this path. My hands can just barely touch these reeds unless I move closer to one side. I walk for about 10 minutes maybe, and I get to this pond. Crystal clear water, and I have this urge to drink it. It looks so refreshing. I kneel down, and suddenly the hairs on the back of my neck go straight up. It was like I snapped back into myself. What am I doing? Why am I about to drink pond water? Why did I walk down this path? I start feeling really uneasy, so I turn around and start walking the same way I came. Let me clarify. There was only one path. Straight. I made no turns. I didn't walk around this pond. I simply walked to the end of the path, got freaked out about something, and turned around. Suddenly all types of bugs were now around. I kept walking, and I noticed the dirt path is getting more and more narrow. The reeds and tall grass are now at my arms, and there's a constant buzzing feeling in my ears from these bugs. The path gets so narrow that I have to walk sideways to avoid the reeds. I yell out help, and I hear a voice ask if I'm okay. I reply I'm lost, and a woman says just walk straight honey, I see you. I see nothing, it's just tall grass and reeds. I walk a few feet and see the road. I am scratched from head to toe, and there's a woman by the playground asking what happened. She takes a Kleenex out of her pocketbook and starts wiping some of the scratches, and I tell her what happened. I look behind me and see no path. I'm at the same park. I'm in front of the swing I was just on. The woman looks at me and tells me that I shouldn't even think about it and to just forget it happened because I'm fine now. But she really emphasized not to talk about it. I've always been on the fence about it. I'm sure there was one path in and one path out. The bugs could have steered me off course. Maybe me being paranoid, or something more sinister that nearly trapped me for good.